Welcome back to the Crypto channel, everyone. My name is Josh, and right now, Bitcoin is breaking below critical support in the short term, wiping out a bunch of long positions. And one of the main reasons why Bitcoin and crypto is dumping is because the US stock market is dumping, specifically this tech stock right here, which I'll talk about in just a moment. And the main reason why this is happening is due to some massive artificial intelligence breakthroughs coming out of China. So I'll be talking about that in just a moment, alongside some massive Bitcoin news today, alongside the price of Solana perfectly hitting my exact price target, while the price of Chainlink is now breaking below this critical area on the price chart. So I'll be talking about all of that and so much more later in the video, so definitely watch to the end. First of all, just before we take a look at the Bitcoin charts today, and before taking a look at the Bitcoin news today, we need to talk about this news today, because obviously this is affecting the overall financial markets, not just Bitcoin and crypto, but also the US stock market, which is really the main reason why Bitcoin and crypto is being affected, which I'll talk about in just a moment. But this chart right here is the QQQ, which is essentially tracking the NASDAQ 100 index, so basically the tech stocks in the US. And this region right here in the yellow, that is the pre-market trading. And in the pre-market, from Friday's price back here basically to where we opened, we immediately opened in the pre-market multiple percent towards the downside, and basically crashed a total of 5% from Friday's close essentially to the pre-market low, 5% straight to the downside in basically 1 hour of trading. And obviously, if you're in crypto, a 5% move doesn't seem like a massive move, but for the US stock market, if a major index like the NASDAQ 100 index or the S&P 500 index has a 5% move straight to the downside, that is a pretty large move for the US stock market. And one of the main reasons as to why we're seeing a huge dump in the US stock market is mainly due to the Nvidia share price. Of course, there's many other share prices going towards the downside, but Nvidia stock is one of the massive companies out there that is absolutely dumping right now. In fact, measuring from basically Friday's close price back here to just this point right here where we opened for pre-market trading, that was 6% immediately towards the downside, or measuring from that Friday close price all the way to where we are right now, at least as of recording this video, that's more than 17% basically straight towards the downside in less than a day of trading. A 17% dump, which is a massive move for the stock market. And just before getting into why this actually affects the price of Bitcoin and crypto, first, what is causing this huge dump in the price of Nvidia here, and also really the overall tech stocks at the moment in the US? And well, the main reason why we're seeing this huge dump, this huge flash crash in the US stock market is due to this DeepSeek company coming out of China. Essentially, they've just developed a new artificial intelligence model that competes with OpenAI's latest model. And so essentially, it has the same performance, if not better performance, than what OpenAI is developing in the US, but the main difference is it is massively cheaper. It is at nowhere near the cost of what the Americans are currently producing artificial intelligence. And on top of all of that, this DeepSeek, this Chinese company here, have essentially made this AI model open source, which means anyone can go and view how it actually works. So it's not secretive or anything like that. They've made it open source. And so this was a massive bombshell on the US financial markets. Basically, everyone's going crazy at how China happened to make something that competes with OpenAI and is even better than OpenAI for nowhere near the cost. So all of the US tech stocks are basically selling off at the moment, especially Nvidia, one of the biggest sell-offs that we've seen in a long time. And I also want to make you aware that, of course, there's scams going around with this massive buzz around DeepSeek. Of course, there's people listing some meme coins and things like that that are basically using the name DeepSeek, but it's not actually DeepSeek, the company that is making these coins. So just be aware, any cryptocurrency that you see is DeepSeek, it's likely a scam, so just be aware of that. And so we now know one of the main reasons, really the primary reason as to why the US stock market is dumping, in particular Nvidia stock. But why does this affect Bitcoin and crypto? And well, the main reason is because Bitcoin and crypto is highly correlated to the US stock market. It's not a perfect one-to-one correlation, but essentially as as stocks have a huge sell-off, a lot of cryptos also follow stocks, and vice versa. If basically the stock market has a huge bullish move, a lot of crypto likely follows similar moves to the stock market. And it really has all to do with liquidity. So for example, if an investor makes $1 million in the US stock market, then they have a lot more money to play with. So they could put some money into crypto, for example, which can pump crypto, or vice versa. If they lose a bunch of money in the stock market, then they might be wanting to, say, sell some crypto in order to reduce their overall risk. And so just by that nature, a lot of markets are heavily correlated, especially tech stocks and crypto. They are quite correlated a lot of the time. So if we see a major flash crash in the tech stocks in particular, we usually see something similar to Bitcoin and crypto, even though there's no real relation fundamentally. And so that is basically bringing you up to date on the massive news today to do with the Chinese AI and why stocks are dumping and why that's affecting Bitcoin and crypto. But just before getting into the Bitcoin charts today, first taking a look at some Bitcoin news today, because this only just came out a matter of hours ago. And of course, it is Michael Saylor once again announcing that MicroStrategy has bought, this time, over $1 billion worth of Bitcoin. They've just recently bought over 10,100 Bitcoin for around $1.1 billion US. And so one of the largest Bitcoin whales in the world, MicroStrategy, is continuing to pump literally billions of dollars into Bitcoin, no matter what the price does. Whether Bitcoin is trading at all-time highs or whether it's crashing, it doesn't matter. MicroStrategy is buying as much as they possibly can, so pay attention to that. And in case you're wondering, MicroStrategy as a company currently holds over 471,000 Bitcoin that they acquired for over $30 billion US at an average price of around 64,000 per Bitcoin. So obviously their Bitcoin holdings are currently worth a lot more than what they paid for. And so obviously for Bitcoin's long-term future, this is bullish for the price of Bitcoin over the longer term, as there's less and less Bitcoin available to buy. Essentially, that ultimately forces the price of Bitcoin towards the upside over the longer term, because basically the price has to go towards the upside if no one's willing to sell, for example, at, let's just say, $100,000. Meanwhile, there's a bunch of people willing to buy it, let's just say, at $100,000. Then ultimately the price has to go towards the upside to the nearest point where basically people are willing to sell Bitcoin. And so in the immediate short term, with MicroStrategy likely doing these buys over the counter or OTC, that doesn't necessarily have an immediate impact on the price of Bitcoin, but that impact happens later down the road as there's less and less Bitcoin to go around. And with that being said, taking a look at the Bitcoin charts today on this weekly time frame, technically speaking, we can still remain within a larger bull market despite seeing short-term pullbacks. So keep that in mind. On the larger time frames, things are still looking okay. And if we're taking a look at this weekly Bitcoin chart, of course, for now, we are not yet starting that next major move in the price of Bitcoin, but based on what we saw 1 year ago, that could happen at some point in the next few weeks or so, because essentially what happened last time was it was around the end of January and early February, we started that next major move. But obviously, as I've also been saying quite a lot recently, just because it happened last time exactly like this, it does not guarantee that it's going to happen the exact same again this time around. But overall, it is quite likely that we could see a continued bullish move, especially based on this 4-day time frame. The super trend indicator still sitting in the green, which is indicating more of a bullish market. Same with this signal technically still playing out. But if we're taking a look at this weekly Bitcoin chart, obviously we still have a possible bearish divergence flashing on the weekly time frame, which is still something to pay attention to. But overall, based on all of this information and also based on the 4-year Bitcoin halving cycles, technically we should still have more room towards the upside to go for this bull market, at least over the next few months or so. But then perhaps as we get closer towards mid-year and especially later this year, we'll likely see some sort of bull market top and start the next bear market. And if you want to actually trade these moves in the price of Bitcoin or any other crypto, personally, I take a lot of my trades over on BTNX, so make sure to leave a link to BTNX below this video in the description and in the pinned comment. And if you use that link, it'll take you to this page right here, which is an exclusive bonus that you can only claim using that link. So for example, if you use that link to make your account and then deposit just $100, you get a $20 bonus. Or if you deposit just $1,000, you get a $100 bonus straight into your new account. And also if you're trading on that account, account, you could get a brand new Apple Watch, Apple AirPods, or even up to a brand new iPhone 16 Pro Max simply just by trading crypto on that account. But once again, that's only available if you use the link below this video to make your account and start trading on that account. And also, in case you're wondering, Bitfinex is a no KYC exchange, which means you can access it from basically any country in the world without needing any KYC. So if you're going to be trading crypto anyway, you might as well check it out. Once again, first link below this video. But as always, check your local regulations when it comes to trading crypto. And also, for whatever reason, if you don't want Bitfinex, there is also Bybit as another option out there, another exchange that I also trade on. So I'll also make sure to leave a link to Bybit below this video in the description and in the pinned comment. But with that being said, taking a look at this daily Bitcoin chart, and of course, right now the price has essentially failed now this breakout, as we can see. So of course, we were lacking bullish momentum in the shorter term due to major resistance, which I'll talk about in just a moment. But of course, I've been talking about that already over the last few days. For almost a week now, I've been talking about major resistance right here, stopping the price going further towards the upside. But now it's got to the point where, due to that massive crash in the stock market, of course, this is affecting the price of Bitcoin in the shorter term, and we've now effectively failed this bullish breakout because we've now broken back below the point of the breakout here. So we're trading basically slightly underneath 100,000 as of recording this video, but we have seen an ever so slight bounce from the actual lowest point so far. And for now, we do have this previous line of resistance, which is currently acting as a bit of support right here, sitting at basically around 98,000 approximately. So expect some support around 98k, and technically speaking, this price target at 116,000 is no longer in play. Now, of course, we can eventually at some point get up towards that level. It's not necessarily based on this price target anymore, based on this pattern, because we've now basically failed this breakout. And so that's why I always say, even if we have a price target towards the upside, we cannot ignore resistance, because resistance can prevent the price heading towards other bullish price targets. And that's exactly what we saw over the last 1 week, give or take, which I've been talking about basically every day over the last 1 week. I've been saying we had a lot of resistance in between 106,000 to 107,000. So expect a lot of struggle around there. And that's exactly what we saw as expected. But now it's got to the point where the price is obviously breaking below this area of support on this 8-hour time frame, which was sitting in between around 101,000 to 103,000. And we're now actually flipping that previous support into new resistance, which is bearish price structure in the shorter term, breaking below support, flipping it into new resistance. Obviously, that's price structure heading in the bearish direction. And so if, for example, we see another slight bounce here, I would expect resistance in that area now. And of course, more resistance up towards this area, as I've already been saying. And as for support, we do have a decent amount of support just in the short term at around 98k to 98.5k, around there, based on previous resistance flipping into new support, and also based on this line right here acting as support at around 98k, give or take. But if we were to see a further break towards the downside below around 98,000, then in that case, the next significant area of support towards the downside is sitting in between around 92,000 to 93,000. But we could also find some support right here sitting at around 95,000 as well. And so overall, we are still technically within a larger bull market. It's not like this latest little pullback right here has confirmed a new bear market. So keep that in mind. The larger timeframes are technically still looking bullish until confirmed otherwise. But the smaller timeframes, the price structure has just changed in the short term. So the short term situation, as in talking about the matter of hours or days, things are looking bearish as of right now, because we have broken below support and flipped it into new resistance. That is price structure heading in the bearish direction. So this could be setting up a bit of a short-term bearish trend, maybe for a number of days. So keep that in mind. And I would also pay attention to how quickly the US stock market recovers out of this pullback right here, because if we see a very quick bounce back, just a quick V-shaped recovery in the US stock market, honestly, we could likely see something similar to Bitcoin. We could possibly regain this area of support if we see a very quick, basically a bullish recovery in the stock market. But if this turns into a larger stock market correction in the coming days or weeks, then of course in the shorter term, that would be bad news for Bitcoin. And if we're taking a quick look at the Bitcoin liquidation heat map over the last one day, of course, with breaking below this area of support and breaking below 100,000, give or take, that wiped out a bunch of long positions. Of course, I talked about here on the channel that we had a lot of long liquidations, a lot of liquidity sitting at, give or take, around $100,000. And we also had a decent area in between around 99,000 to 99.3K. So just underneath 100,000, a lot of liquidity right there, which has now been taken out. And so now that we've wiped out a lot of that area right there, what are the areas of liquidity to watch out for right now? And well, right now we still have more liquidity towards the downside, sitting in between around 96,000 to 97.6K. So in that area, watch out for that. And we also have more liquidity building towards the upside, mainly sitting at just above 107,000 and also at around 110,000. And so in case you're new to all of this, usually, not always, but usually the price of Bitcoin tends to move towards these areas of liquidity. So keep that in mind. For example, a likely scenario based on this chart right here could be a little bit more of a pullback to take out this downside liquidity before potentially in a few days from now or in a week from now, let's just say, we might see a recovery back up towards these higher levels. That is a possibility. But remember, as I said earlier, pay attention to that US stock market, specifically the NASDAQ 100 index, in order to figure out what could be likely for Bitcoin moving forward in the coming days or weeks. And also on top of that, if we're taking a look at the Bitcoin and crypto funding rates, with that latest little flash crash or little dump in the price of Bitcoin and crypto, that turned a lot of these funding rates negative. And so this tells us that there's now a high demand to short Bitcoin and crypto and a low demand to long Bitcoin and crypto. So in other words, people are trying to aggressively bet against the price of Bitcoin and crypto. Anytime these funding rates are negative, they're basically willing to pay a premium on the short positions. And so, for example, when the funding rates are negative, the short positions have to pay extra fees, usually every 8 hours, have to pay those fees to the long positions. So the long positions, in other words, right now are earning money from trading fees when the funding rates are negative, while the short positions are paying extra fees. And basically, the more negative these funding rates go, the more bullish that becomes for Bitcoin and crypto, because that tells us we could be approaching some sort of short squeeze. If, for example, the funding rates are extremely negative, that means a lot of shorts are having to pay massive fees to the long positions. And so under that circumstance, if the price of Bitcoin is even just trading sideways, then essentially the shorts are losing out big time while the longs are making a bunch of money if the price is trading perfectly sideways. So in other words, right now with the funding rates turning more and more negative, the shorts positions need the price to go in the bearish direction in order to make money. But if the price even just stays sideways, the longs are actually making money from fees. And so that can often result in a quick turnaround in the price of Bitcoin back up towards the bullish direction once we finally stop the bearish price action. Obviously, while the bearish price action continues, the shorts are still making money from the bearish price action. But the moment the bearish price action stops, the moment we even just flip a little bit neutral, of course, a lot of shorts may be interested in closing those shorts or taking profits from the shorts, which adds buying pressure to the price, which can quickly push the price back up. But remember, that only starts after we first stop the bearish price action. So we have to see some sort of neutral price action start to form, and then we can expect perhaps a quick bullish recovery. But for now, things are currently bearish because obviously we've just confirmed bearish price structure, as I've said recently. But with that being said, taking a look at the price of Solana on the weekly time frame, and technically speaking, things are still looking bullish on the larger time frames for the price of Solana, because we're still forming higher lows and higher highs despite the short-term pullback, and we've not yet confirmed an invalidation for this price target, still sitting at around $374. So despite the short-term pullback, technically speaking, until confirmed otherwise, we're still within a larger bull market when we're zooming out, looking at the bigger picture. And if we're taking a look at the 8-hour time frame, obviously we had a lot of resistance at 271 and more resistance at 260, which I've been saying over and over again here on the channel since before these latest rejections. And so obviously, as I also say over and over again here on the channel, even if we have a bullish price target, we cannot ignore resistance that is between the price and the price target, because resistance can potentially stop the price from going beyond those points. That's what resistance is. And so right now the price is continuing these rejections from these points of resistance, and of course breaking below support. We broke below this level of support at around $246, and the moment we did that, that was an immediate bearish signal. If you were paying attention to the price right there at 246. The moment we broke that level, we immediately dropped down towards the next level of support, which was sitting at around 232. And then the moment we broke below that level, we immediately dropped down towards this area of support based on previous resistance becoming new support, and that's sitting in between 220 to 223. And as of recording this video, we have perfectly bounced from that exact area of support. But if we were to see a continued break towards the downside with candle closes below 220, then in that case, expect to move down towards this area in between $200 to $205. But for now, 220 to 223 is acting as support in the short term. And if we're zooming further into the short term, looking at the 4-hour time frame, the price just perfectly hit my exact price target for this wedge right here, this wedge pattern, the rising wedge. And of course, I've talked about this over the last few days here on the channel, basically saying that ultimately we have to wait for a confirmation of either below support or above resistance. But I've been saying that a rising wedge is typically a bearish pattern. Often it breaks towards the downside. It can break to the upside, but often it breaks towards the downside. But essentially, the moment we broke below this line of support, which was sitting at around $251 at this point, the moment we broke below that support, and especially once we confirmed the candle close, that activated this bearish price target in play, which was sitting at around $224 approximately, which I talked about recently here on the channel over the last few days since before this entire pullback. And so, for example, if you entered some sort of short position, either the moment we broke below this support right around here, or if you waited for that 4-hour candle close and entered a short right here and held that short down towards this price target, and then either closed the short position or took a lot of profits off the table around the price target, obviously you did very well. So that's just an example of a very simple, a very basic trading strategy when it comes to a price pattern like this, where you can easily profit in crypto, even in bearish price action. Yes, that is right. In case you're new to all of this, you can make more money while the price is dumping. And remember, if you want to take any trades just like that, check out the links below this video to those crypto exchanges if you want to get those extra bonuses over on those exchanges using those links. And with that being said, taking a look at the price of Chainlink on the daily time frame, and as of recording this video, the price of Chainlink is massively breaking below this important area on the price chart, which was sitting in between around $24.50 to $25.50 based on previous resistance becoming new support. And for roughly around a week, for close to a week, this was acting as major support. But obviously with that latest news and with the stock market crashing, causing Bitcoin to dump and really the overall crypto market to dump, of course, Chainlink is also getting affected. Usually a lot of these assets are very correlated, as I've been saying recently here on the channel. And so now that the price of Chainlink has lost this area on the price chart, of course, things are simply looking bearish in the short term, especially if we confirm this daily candle close below that $24 level, then essentially I'd no longer expect this falling wedge to continue to play out. So obviously it played out very nicely for roughly around a week, and then we lost a lot of bullish momentum following similar price action to Bitcoin. So like I always say, for a lot of the top altcoins, simply just watch the Bitcoin price in order to figure out what is most likely going to happen for the altcoins. And so now that Chainlink is breaking below this area on the price chart, what are the next areas of support to watch out for? And well, right now we do have support based on this candle wick and also this latest candle wick low sitting at around just above $22, around $22.20 acting as support, and also based on these lows close to $22 as support. And we also have this area of support further towards the downside in between around $19 to $20 approximately. And with that being said, if we're taking a look at the price of XRP on the 8-hour time frame, obviously XRP is also following very similar price action to a lot of the top cryptos. Like I always say, simply just pay attention to what Bitcoin is doing in order to figure out what is most likely going to happen for XRP and a lot of the top altcoins. So the moment Bitcoin and stocks really started to dump, XRP was also affected. Like I've been saying, a lot of the top assets are highly correlated. And so now that the price of XRP is broken below these levels of support, which were sitting at around $3.04 and also around $2.95. Now that we've broken below those levels, technically speaking, those are now acting as new resistance. So I'd now expect resistance at $2.95 and also just above $3, around $3.04 acting as resistance. And of course, we also have major resistance in between around $3.30 to $3.40, which I've been saying for a long time now on the channel, acting as major resistance at just above $3.30. And as for support, if we continue this rejection here, I'd now expect a lot of support in this area based on previous resistance becoming new support. And so far we have seen one bounce from that area, and that's sitting in between around $2.60 to $2.73. And so really in between around 260 to 270, that is the area of support to pay attention to for XRP. And in terms of the short-term trend and momentum, technically speaking, breaking below support and flipping that into new resistance is bearish price structure. So the short term is simply bearish for XRP for now. But obviously, perhaps after we play out a little bit more of a short-term bearish trend or a bit of a correction in the price of XRP, at some point later on, of course, we can continue a larger bull market when we're zooming out to the larger timeframes. And with that being said, if we're taking a look at the price of Ethereum on the 3-day time frame, just like a lot of the top cryptos, Ethereum was also affected with that latest dump in stocks and Bitcoin. And so we're continuing this perfect rejection from this area of resistance, which was sitting in between around 34.30 to 35.60 and is still acting as major resistance. And as of recording this video, we're now coming into contact with this area of support where we've previously seen many bounces from, and that's sitting in between around 3,000 to 3.1k. So that is the area of support to pay attention to. But if we were to see a confirmed break below $3,000, especially with a daily candle close below 3,000, in that case, the next area of support I'll be watching is sitting in between 2.7k to 2.8k, and especially close to 2.8k, that is an important level. And in terms of the shorter term trend and momentum, technically speaking, we've not fully left this sideways price range as of right now. But if we are looking at the highs and the lows in the price overall, we're actually forming lower highs and lower lows. So even though we've not fully left this sideways price action, which is technically neutral, this sideways price range, technically we're looking slightly more bearish than we are bullish in terms of the highs and the lows. And that would especially be the case if we confirm a break below 3,000. That would obviously mean we are simply continuing a pullback down towards 2.8k if we break 3,000. And so those are the important levels to watch out for the price of Ethereum. And honestly, I would not expect any major bullish recovery unless we saw a massive bullish recovery in Bitcoin and stocks. Obviously, that can influence the price of Ethereum and a lot of the major altcoins. And once again, if you want to take any of these trades in the price of any crypto, check out those links below this video to claim those extra bonuses. And if you want to actually know how to trade crypto, no matter if the price is bullish, bearish, or chopping around sideways, you can profit from all of that price action by watching these videos popping up right here on your screen. The video in the top left shows you how you can profit from bullish or bearish price action, and the video in the bottom left shows you how you can easily profit from choppy sideways price action. But anyway, that is everything that I have to say for today. I really hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you all in the next video.